Hey guys, what's up? I'm Zach. Welcome to Zach's Soapbox. This is the video for the week of Friday, April 24th, 2026. Hello everyone, I'm your host. This little shit we call Zach's Soapbox, where once a week I get on here, speak my mind, talk about whatever I want to talk about, and then upload it. And you guys give me feedback. Maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't. Please feel free to like, comment, and share on this video. It helps the algorithm and helps boost the signal and everything like that on the channel here. You know what I mean? We at the time this comes out, we've just passed 1 year of the soapbox, and we're doing pretty good. We're up to 64 subscribers, 64, 65, and then last I looked, we were over I think 13 or like 13,000 views of the channel. You know, and we average about 1,100, 1,200 views a month here at the Soapbox, which I think is pretty, astonishing considering, it's just me with a cell phone and just me, and I'm nobody. So I think that's pretty fucking cool. Anyways, this week I have something different for you. You know, sometimes we go through a lot, and so, be it, a bad relationship, physical, mental, emotional abuse, things like that. And so I come up with some signs, and I share a lot of these myself. Maybe you've been through too much, you know what I mean? And so here's what I've kind of come up with. Signs you've been through too much. Fierce independence. People often assume because I'm wheelchair bound and I'm disabled and I was born with cerebral palsy, that my independence is because, well, I'm disabled and I want to be independent and strong and blah, 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 blah. Yes, that's partially probably correct. But by being fiercely independent, you don't have to depend on anyone. You don't have to rely on anyone. It doesn't place you, by almost being dependent, it places you at other people's mercy. And that can relate partly into my disability in a sense that, like, say, back home where there's no real public transportation or infrastructure, you have to rely on people to go anywhere, to go to a concert, to go to a dinner, to go to wherever. Someone has to come get you and take you back. So now that I'm out here in Vegas, I get to be able to go do things like that by myself because I'm in a city with 24-hour transportation. So part of the reason that what keeps me in Vegas is that I'm able to be independent and I don't have to give up my independence. And if I want to go to a concert, I can just buy a ticket and go and take the bus, and it's $3 to take the bus, $3 each way, so it's $6 round trip. I don't have to give people gas money, pay for t-shirts, pay for food and drink for not only me, but the person taking me, that sort of thing. So fierce independence, because this way you don't have to have that vulnerability of being hurt by someone who, oh, I'll come get you in, and they never show up, that sort of thing. Another thing is trust. You put up walls. I really have a lot of walls, and I don't get close to people, and I tend to keep people at a distance. I don't trust anybody, and that's, but if you don't trust anyone, it's also hard to make friends then. So I really don't have many friends either. You know what I mean? And I tend to really keep people at a distance. Third thing is you easily shut down. In my case, because I'm disabled, a lot of times you'll make friends online, either through the internet or through phone friends, things like that. And it's one of the ways I've always kind of made friends is through, say, online, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the like, which they don't call it that anymore, it's X now. And then, or maybe back in the day on like internet or phone chat lines on the phone, maybe you meet somebody and talk to them for a while. But ultimately what happens is you get ghosted, you get, somebody might be using you for knowledge, for understanding, for money, for whatever the case. And then once they're done, they are done with you. So I'm used to getting fucked over, so I can easily turn my idea of a friendship off, so to speak, because you're so used to getting fucked over. It's like, oh, my girlfriend wants to break up with me. Oh, it figures, everybody that's ever I ever tried to get close to or tried to get close to me has ended up leaving me in the end. So you're just like, okay, on to the next thing, because that's how, you know what I mean? relationships never work, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? So you just easily kind of shut down. You know, oh, okay, this person's ghosting me online now. Okay, see ya. You know, and you just kind of on to the next thing. Uh, Fourthly, overthinking and overplanning. A more recent example of this is like with this trying to get this new wheelchair, which at the time of recording I still have not got. It got denied by insurance, so now we got to go from there. But overthinking and overplanning to where I have a contingency plan that I will use the money for the copay that I had to help buy a new wheelchair through retail and buy it off a retail supplier. So at least I have something. But you always come up with a contingency plan. What if, what if, what if, what if? To where you're always overthinking and expecting the worst. You expect the absolute worst from everyone and everything because almost like that's what you're used to. But that overthinking then also gives you like a sense of profound resilience that no matter what happens, because you have a contingency plan on top of a contingency plan, you're fucking prepared for everything. So it gives you a sense of like over resilience too, where no matter what happens and no matter how, like, I could be laying in bed for an hour because I have a little bit of morning depression where once I get up and start moving, I'm fine. But you're doing that thing where you're laying in bed because you're like, okay, why am I alive? What's the reason to get up out of bed today? Blah, blah, blah. But you always have this inner power, you could be at the darkest times, you know, maybe you're contemplating suicide, maybe you're whatever, you know what I mean? But somehow you still find a way to soldier on, carry on, and get out of bed. You know what I mean? So that's like a fifth thing, is the profound resilience that comes with having to rely on nobody but yourself. The sixth thing is need solitude and peace of mind to process your thoughts, to think deeply, to reflect, so on and so forth. You know, often I get accused of, Zachary, you know, you're so antisocial, you just tend to keep to yourself. Well, it's because it's when I keep to myself that I feel like I have a sense of peace and I have a sense of normalcy. It's when I get around other people that I feel like chaos and I feel like a sense of almost overwhelmed. You know what I mean? So in a way, I almost prefer to be by myself. So that's why I noticed having this wheelchair, this is coming up on 2 months at the time of recording since I've had my wheelchair's been able to work. And really beyond being able to do like daily living tasks like my own laundry and taking out my garbage and things like that, I'm not really missing going out and being around people. You know what I mean? I'm not really missing that. The seventh thing is I really prefer stability and I prefer predictability. I prefer routine. I'm very much a creature of habit. You know, get up in the morning, have your morning coffee, brush your teeth, take your morning dump. Anytime like my routine is interrupted or somehow, you know, diverged from, I kind of get irritated and upset. I'm very much a creature of habit. You know, kind of the same things. I like it like that because of the stability and predictability. I like routine. You appreciate the small things. You know, I'm out here in Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world, city of over 2 million people. We're gonna have an NBA team here by 2028, a baseball team, we have football out here. We're gonna have NBA, WNBA. We even have a minor league baseball team called the 51s, I think, for like Area 51. But yet, one of my highlights of my week is when I hear from, my buddy Tom doing a check-in, or one of the highlights of my week is when my buddy, Mercer Mike and my buddy Tom, they do a podcast together and, once every week or two, and that could be the highlight of my week is, all this shit in Vegas. And it's like, I'd rather sit out and hang out with my man, Mercer Mike and, Tom, and Mike has a drink, little shit like that. Maybe I went and seen a movie this week. I take a lot of appreciation of the small things. Maybe me going crazy like Domino's this week was doing this deal where they $10, any pizza you want, any size you want, any toppings you want. So for the first time since November, I ordered a pizza. I still feel like a fat fuck the next day, but the point being is I took appreciation in something so small by comparison. I'm out here with all these things to do, and it just feels like an overload and an overwhelm. That I'm appreciating the small things, even doing this video and being self-reflective, and I had to sit and think and write out a script. That sort of thing. The ninth thing is struggle can equal growth. That is to say that there's like a certain maturity when you struggle or go through strife, you learn what really matters, and you also kind of learn, okay, now you use almost pain as a learning lesson, and struggle can, like I said, struggle can equal growth, where you find a life lesson in pain and hurt and sorrow. You know what I mean? You become very self-reflective, so to speak. The 10th thing is always apologizing and feeling like a burden. You know what I mean? And some of this might come from my disability and being wheelchair bound, you know, where nobody wants to push around the crippled kid in a wheelchair. Nobody wants to, you know, have to like fucking put the wheelchair in the trunk, that sort of thing. But I always feel like a burden or a bother. But the thing is, I wipe my own ass. I really don't take any medications except maybe the only thing I have prescribed for me is a mild potassium pill for blood pressure. But you just take that once a day. But it's always feeling like a burden or a bother and apologizing almost for existing. You know what I mean? Like you've always been in the way and your needs were never important and nobody ever knew how to really attend to your needs. So you're just kind of left to your own devices. You know what I mean? And I was going to do 10 things, but I thought of another one and I'm like, write that down. I'm like, oh, that's a good one. Anxiety around other people. Sometimes being around other people, that's one thing about like being out here in the city of 2 million with 40, we get 40 million tourists a year out here in Vegas that visit annually. So anxiety around other people, like being in a crowd is very overwhelming. Being in a crowd gets fucking old quick. You know what I mean? That sort of thing, to where it just feels, like I said, overwhelming, you know? But you know, so I've learned to kind of, one of the ways I've kind of adapted to Vegas is kind of, you really learn to kind of keep to your, actually, instead of becoming more outgoing, which is what I thought it would be, you know, out here with all this sunshine and all this people and 24-hour transportation, I'll become more outgoing and more social. Actually, I haven't. I've become a lot more introverted and kind of, you know what I mean? Of course, I'm getting older too, and I'd rather spend some time at home and that sort of thing. It's just too much, you know, to go out all the time. When I get this chair back, maybe I'll go to some concerts or something here and there. But it's like, you know, when people come up and start talking to you, it's just like, you know, sometimes somebody might do that. And it's like, man, your default position is to keep to yourself. So I'm sure I kind of give off this notion that like, if you come up and talk to me, you're almost bothering me. And it's like, because I'm so used to being in my own bubble that it just, you know, I don't know, man. I'd rather trust no one and live in loneliness, so to speak, than open up to somebody who's just going to use me and take advantage of me anyway. You know what I mean? There's safety in numbers, and that number is one, and that number one is me. So, you know what I'm saying? But anxiety around people, to where the more people, it's like, man, I'd rather just kind of just go chill by myself, you know? But all right, guys, that's the video for this week. I hope you enjoyed. Again, feel free to like, comment, and share. Spread this around. You know, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'd appreciate it. And have a good weekend, and I'll see you next time.